And I was like, man, how is this military guy have three, you know, real estate properties? I had blinders on for 40 some years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Taking those blinders off, I was like, holy crap, this is a freaking big world out there. So I had to learn to find the right people for the right task.
Him doing that, him sitting on live with me while I'm calling and have a conversation, him typing the notes and what I should say, when I should,
Yeah.
it really taught me how to communicate.
And the way he was talking, I mean, he was answering, but the way he was answering, I was like, something wasn't right. Every relationship has problems, okay? And I think a lot of the failures on these divorces, and this is my opinion, okay, is nobody's willing to talk about it.
What's going on, my brothers and sisters around the world? We got another guest for episode number 61. We got my brother Arnie Newton, the short sale king. For those of y'all don't know what short sale is, you'll find out further on throughout the conversation. Arnie, my brother, what's going on, man? How you doing?
What up, Terrell?
How you
Thank you for
doing?
inviting me on this amazing podcast, brother.
Man, thank you for reaching out. Thank you for reaching out. I'm super stoked that you're here so I can learn about you, so we can learn about you and really connect. Who are you? What do you do? And where you from?
So again, Arnie Newton. Um, so I live out here in Cabot, Arkansas. Um, Retired Air Force after 20 years of service. Now I'm a full-time real estate investor. Been doing about 3 years, and that's how we actually connected. Right, we're both Pace Morby sub two students. I think we met up on Thanksgiving Day, or actually Thanksgiving Eve, should I say? Um, but yeah, it's been a really great journey. I'm 41 years old. Um, got two brothers, two sisters, and they're all over the country. So that's a fortunate thing. But yeah, I tell you, man, I love Arkansas, um, and I honestly I did not want to be here. um, when I found out I got orders here from the military, I was like, holy crap, what the heck's in Arkansas? You know, I had three choices, and Arkansas was my last choice, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest with you. And it was actually the best thing that ever happened to me to come here. It just, the property values are cheaper here. Um, uh, great, great people here, and really I can travel anywhere I want. I mean, it's right in the middle of America, so you know, been to Dallas, been to Destin, Florida from here. My brother actually moved out to Kansas City, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
So great thing. I got a bunch of family in Oklahoma, and now my parents are actually thinking about moving either in Arkansas or Missouri. So that's a great thing.
Mm. You say you didn't. You said the greatest thing happened to you moved to Arkansas. What was the greatest thing?
Well, for me, well, currently I said I'm a real estate investor, and when I, before I retired, I didn't really know what I was gonna really do. So I was actually an aircraft mechanic by trade, specifically aircraft fuel systems. Working on C-130s out here on Little Rock Air Force Base. Um, so I was thinking about just going back, into the aircraft maintenance, after I retired, maybe working at the airport or something like that, or maybe some type of, management position because I retired master sergeant, so I had a lot of managerial experience. Um, but luckily, about a year before I retired, um, I just overheard a conversation from one of my supervisors. He was a senior master sergeant, and he was talking about some real estate property that he had. I think he had like three at the time. And I was like, man, how is this military guy have three, you know, real estate properties, for, investing?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I need to get into that. I was like, so I set up a meeting with him and, just asking some questions like, how did you get into real estate? How can I get into real estate? And the first thing he did was, before he even talked about real estate, he told me he had actually a book with him, believe it or not. It was, and a lot of people maybe have heard of it. It was called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Not really a real estate book, more of like a real estate mentality. Not, I'm sorry, investing mentality book. And he said, read this book or listen to it, which I did, and come back to me after you listen to it, and we could talk real estate then. So I downloaded it. Actually, no, actually, I'm so cheap, so I actually looked on YouTube, and they actually had a audible version, or a audible version on YouTube, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I listened to that, and I was listening while I was going to work, coming back from work, at the gym, and that was life changing. Like, my whole mentality when it comes to finances was changed. I was like, I had no idea about this whole different world of finance and how investing, accredited investors. I didn't know any of that stuff, and it drove a hunger in me, and that I couldn't quench. I mean, a thirst I couldn't quench. So right away, as soon as I listened to that book, I went back to my supervisor. And I was like, "Hey, man, that book, holy crap, it changed my life." I was like, "What? Like, teach me more. Like, tell me about this real estate game." You know. So, and I don't know if you even want to go, we can go into that more, but you know, that started my journey into real estate. But to go back to answer your question, um, because Arkansas is a really untouched market when it comes to real estate investing. There's not a lot of big players buying properties out here. There's a few, but it's not like bigger city, big states like California, maybe New York, bigger cities that have saturated with a lot of investors. It's really untouched, and it's a lot more affordable, and the cash flow is a lot better here. So that's why I said this is the best thing ever happened to me, because it just everything lined up. So I bought many properties out here, using some of the techniques that I learned. But that's why I think Arkansas is just an amazing place, because just the opportunities in my business today.
And that is incredible. The best thing that happens when we least expect it. I've learned in order to grow in life, we have to do things that's unknown. It's scary, it's new, it's different, it's difficult.
Yes.
How do we do something if we never step forward and actually tried? You
Yeah.
tried it, but the thing that really changed your mindset, your understanding of who you are today and where you're trying to go, was a book. And was somebody telling you to read it, we're really investing their time and effort in you to say this is what you need to read in order to understand where we're going, and understand the language, understand the lingo. How important is to be an open book rather than a closed book?
Can you rephrase that in a way? I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. How important is it to be open rather than closed? So as you're learning,
Oh, open-minded.
open minded. Yeah,
I
my
got you. I'm
yeah,
tracking.
yeah.
Okay. I tell you what. My whole life, it's, and I'm thinking back now. That's a great question, by the way. You know, I'm so military. Let me just go back a little bit, if you don't mind. So, my dad was a retired Navy, 26 years. Okay. And then 3 days after I graduated high school, I was on a plane to boot camp for Air Force. And then, so literally my entire life was military, structured. Okay. Um, and influenced by my dad, obviously. Right. So, um, Rich Dad Poor Dad, what really got me on that book, by the way, was my dad. I found out that my dad, even though he had he made some good money. Okay, I remember like growing up, and my dad had like $100 bills, stack of hundred. I mean, he was old school. My stepdad, was old school. So he had stack of $100 bills in his wallet all the time. Like, he's one of those guys that you would bury money. Like, he never invested in stocks. He was never, no investing. It just, he put money in the savings account, right?
Mhm.
As most people probably do in America, right? So my mindset was basically the same way. And I'm talking about open-minded when it comes to just in finances and real estate and all stocks and all that. Okay, so um, my mind was really closed off when it comes to like anything else. I was like, this is the only way. This is how I was taught, so this is has to be the only way to do it, right? So after reading that book, I was like, oh my gosh, there's a different world out there. I had to really rewire my brain, and I'm still trying to rewire my brain on some of these. And you understand, you're a sub 2 student, on some of these techniques and terminologies and things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you got to think, my entire life was military, so all my friends were were their fathers or their mothers were military,
Mm-hmm.
right? And obviously the people I work with are all military, so the people were just different personalities when in the civilian world. So some of I just had to get used to that. So but I'm so glad the real estate really opened my mind, because now I had to force myself to be open my mind a lot more. I had to expand. I had blinders on for 40 some years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Taking those blinders off, I was like, holy crap, this is a freaking big world out there. A huge opportunity. And I don't know if that really answered your question on that. So
It did. It definitely did. Because when I was in the military, when I was in the Marine Corps, first I want to say thank you for your service, Arnie. Thank you for your
thanks for your
service.
service too, brother.
Of course, of course.
My brother always calls it chair force, by the way. My
Share
brother
force. Because I sit down a lot.
What's that?
You guys sit down a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The zingers. How inter service things.
Of
So,
course. I was one of those. I was one of those. They sat
and I
down.
told my brother, I was like, listen, I'd have to sign my name to get in the Army. I actually had to study, a little bit.
Just a tad bit.
But, but just he's like, hey, you gave me a zinger, I'll give right back.
Yep. People don't understand. You got to study for all of them, and it's really understanding that we have to be willing to learn, to unlearn what's been embedded in us so long. I'm not as old as you because I'm only 23. However, there's no timing on when your life can be changed, when your mind can be shifted, when your goals and aspirations can become bigger. I've learned the best way to learn how to do things that's really difficult to understand and try them is to really function off of faith rather than fear.
Yep.
How long did it take you to flip that switch to say, I'm not going to stop myself from doing something I don't know how to do? Let me learn, let me try, let me just put myself out there. How long did it take you to learn that?
In the military, I had to do that. We have to. Oh, and I think, it's kind of cool that you put that thumbnail. He says pivot, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think my whole life is constantly pivoting, right? In the
Mm-hmm.
military, you can't, and you understand this, especially in the Marines. There's no perfect plan.
Mm-hmm.
You can plan you can do everything you can. You can have the whole team. You can have the best spreadsheets, the best analytics, and then one thing will change everything, and then you got to pivot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing goes, especially in the military. Nothing goes according to plan. Real estate, same thing. Nothing goes according to plan. On a rehab, right? You plan everything, and then they find out there's now you got a leak in the slab, and you got to rip down some walls, to fix it. Takes more time, more money, and you're fighting against the market and all that stuff. So yeah, so you constantly have to change and pivot. My entire life was like that, so um, you understand this too. Every 3-4 years, right? When I was growing up, we moved, so I had
Mm-hmm.
a new place every time. My dad was an officer, so we sometimes we move every 2 years. So new friends, new situations, new schools, but that actually built me to how I am today, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty good at assimilating to new situations and new places, you know, it's not tough for me to meet new people, right? Um, so yeah.
So you use a terminology that I don't think the audience knows. Slab. What is a slab?
Oh yeah. So when you're house is built on a foundation, right? So you got the concrete slab. That's just the foundation. So the plumbing when they build a house, they run plumbing. Some of the water or sewage plumbing through in the actual concrete slab. So and the reason why I even brought that up because I had that situation like last week.
Mm.
So that's why I brought it up. I just thought of that, but yeah, that's what that is. It's just a concrete foundation, and the plumbing that was running through that concrete foundation was leaking. So and it was running up through the wall, so we had to get that replaced.
Mm. So the way you just described how your whole life you've been able to pivot, where you've been forced to learn how to pivot, be comfortable being uncomfortable. Do you think you transferring all what you know to real estate, it became easier and attainable? Or was it like I've been pivoting my whole life, why can't I not do this?
Um, I think what you're trying to say is like how did my military um, influence my real estate
Yes.
career in a
Yes.
way? Okay,
Hmm.
man, you got some good questions, man. Um,
Thank you. Thank you.
I was just talking about that with one of my buddies the other day, and actually today too. So I had one of my coworkers, my old coworkers, when I was in Hawaii. This is probably back in 2010. He's still in the military. I think he's got 5 years left. But we worked together. Um, and he called me up today, and he was like, "Man, I've been seeing a lot of your social media posts. I've been following you for a while, and I've got 5 years left,
See.
and um, I really don't want to work. Because he's an aircraft mechanic too, right? So as a mechanic, your joints get messed up, your back gets messed up, right?
Mhm.
Spend a lot of time away from your family, so mentally, I mean, you're exhausted. And he's like, man, after the military, I don't know if I really want to do a lot of like a hard job. What I mean, I just want to just relax, but I can't because you still got to pay the bills. He still has two kids.
Mhm.
He's got mortgage payments. And inflation, everything's like more expensive. So, and I'm what my point is so I talked to him and I was like, listen, bro, you don't have to do that 9 to 5 job. But there's nothing wrong with being 9 to 5 job. Okay, nothing wrong with that.
Mhm. Mhm.
You have to have people. You got to have 9 to 5 jobs, or this economy would tank. Okay, but you have options. Okay, like I said, you got to pivot. You can't take your blinders off. So there's a new world out there. Okay, and it seems like you're interested in what I do. Okay, but he was worried about the education. There's a lot of things when it comes to real estate, right? The acquisition side, you the actual, if you're a rehab, you got to rehab the property, then you got to do the marketing. There's a lot more to real estate investing. But I was like, when you get out after 20 years, even not even 20 years, you did your time in the Marines, okay? The self-discipline, right?
Mhm.
Punctuality, right? Um, the camaraderie, right? The project management, leadership. Those are all skills that we take that for granted. We don't really realize that we're learning that stuff in the military.
Mhm.
You can use those same skills in the real estate game. This is why it was easy for me to become a real estate investor because number one, the communication side, right? When you have to communicate with sellers, you got to communicate with buyers, you got to communicate with title company, other investors, right? Private money lenders, right? Um, Anybody. You got to be a good communicator. Well, in the military, we had to communicate. when you're on the front lines, as a Marine, you're in charge of platoon, right? You have to communicate well, or they die, right? That's extreme, but in reality, that's the Marines are in the front lines. You know, they and we always make fun of Marines in a way because they're like, there's like, you tell them to do something, they said yes sir, we'll do it, right? No matter what they're gonna jump. You tell them to jump off a cliff, they'll jump. That's what they're trained to do. But that's life and death. If you're in a battlefield and your platoon leader says you need to freaking go in this spot right now, they're gonna go. There's no thinking behind that. Okay, so those qualities in the military translates well because when I'm doing a rehab, right? When I'm running a project, okay, I got to communicate with all the contractors, right? Sometimes there's 4 or 5 different contractors with different personalities. I mean, they're not even military, so there's some there's some characters, right? Some are terrible, some are great, but you have to communicate with them in a way that doesn't sometimes you can't hurt their feelings, right? There's a lot of feelings sometimes involved. You can't sometimes you can't be direct like in the military. But my point is you gotta be a communicator. You gotta be a good you have a good understanding of the personality, right? So in the military too, you do a lot of especially when you make rank. When you're a grunt or an airman, you just follow orders, right? But when you become a leader, then you have to start obviously leading, but you got to build teams, right? When you build a team, you got to build team sometimes by their personality, right? So there were some projects especially on the tail end of my career, when I became a tech sergeant, master sergeant, I was in charge of projects with like 70 people, right? My commander said, "Hey, Arnie, you need to do this task," and it needs done at this time. No really direction. He's like, this is what needs to be done. I'm like, he's like, make it happen. You're a master sergeant, you figure it out. So I'm like, okay, well, this is the objective. This is the timeline. Okay. Now I gotta delegate. Okay. So now I have to build different teams for different projects. There's no way I could do everything. I'm a control freak, and I mean, for me personally, I want to do everything. I want to do everything because I know that if I do it, more than likely it's going to be done how the commander wants it. But that's not sustainable, man. You're going to go crazy, and it's not going to be done on time. So I had to learn to find the right people for the right task, right? If it's like a analyzing kind of, you got to build spreadsheets, a lot of metric centric tasks. Those are people that have we call it the green personality, right? The integrators in Pace Morby's, they call them integrators. A little more of like an introvert in a way. They more analyze, right? So I put those people in that position, right? People who are really great communicators and can, lead teams. They're extroverts, right? Those I put those on those type of tasks, right? On extrovert type of tasks, right? And everything in between, right? So like, so like, so basically you just got to understand how to build a team. So in the real estate game, I'm doing the same thing. Okay. And it was an easy transition for me. It's just different material, a different learning curve, but the core foundation of, team building, leadership, it's basically the same thing. Communicating, all that stuff, the same thing in real estate, just different material. That's all. So that's why I think, in my opinion, that's why I was really successful in this game. And when I told my buddy that today, I was like, listen, don't be scared. You got the tools to do this job. Okay, you can. I was like, if I can do it, bro, you can do it. Okay, you're way smarter than me. Okay, he's actually a pretty smart guy. So I was like, don't be scared. But I'm so glad that you called me up because this is why he's smart. Is he didn't want to take everything on himself, right? Why try to reinvent the wheel? So partner with somebody who knows what they're doing, right? And this is anything. This is not the real estate, anything, right? If you're trying to do something, once you find somebody who knows what they're doing, and then just, follow them, partner with them, learn from them, right? Learn from their mistakes. It's a
Mm-hmm.
big thing, right? So you don't make those big mistakes. You're still going to make mistakes, right?
Of course.
And that's a different conversation, by the way. I would
Mhm.
love to talk about mistakes.
It is.
I'm not ashamed to say that I made mistakes. I still make mistakes all day, but
Mhm.
those are the best lessons, man. And the people in this game, there's a lot of people. 99% of the population would love to do what we do, right? I would honestly say like majority of those people are just they're scared. They don't want to take action, right? They're scared of making mistakes, right? The fear. It's very, very powerful. Fear is a very, very powerful thing.
90% of people won't take action because of fear.
Yeah, and on anything, right? If
Yep.
something that's unknown,
Mm-hmm.
it's very, very scary to jump into something you're not comfortable with, right? Even though they have all the tools, they're just scared to make mistakes. They're petrified. It's unrational thinking.
It
Maybe it's
is.
human brain side. I don't know. It's the human side of it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's really overthinking the process before the process even began. When I was working with my mentors, Mike and Brigley and Steve Anderson, they in substitute Pace Morby substitute program as well. They taught me so much about how to run a business, how to communicate, how to solve a problem, how to identify the problem. See, a lot of times as we're taking imperfect action, it's the best because we're able to find people that will lead us along the way.
Yeah.
I've learned I can't figure things out by myself because I don't know what I'm learning. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
When I learned from my mentors, I was able to see the ins and out when there was redeveloping a home, how the bad was actually overtaking the project, and it took longer than they expected, but they kept
Yep.
prevailing, they kept pushing through. So I'm like, oh, this is what people don't show. Everybody show the wins, everybody show the glory, but what about the hard times? What about when things doesn't go as planned? Just like you said,
Yeah.
you got to learn how to pivot, but it's understanding that something's gonna go wrong sooner or later, but it's learning how to control what you can control. You mean?
Absolutely.
Go ahead, I'm Steve.
What I like to add, Terrell, is you know, you can't be scared to get out of your comfort zone. Okay, it's natural to when you do something for so long, right? Your natural tendency is you don't want to do anything else, right? Because you just don't either you're scared of making mistakes, or just scared in general, of just whatever. Um, and it kind of highlight a point, and I really want to kind of bring this up. So I don't know if you can tell, but my natural personality, I'm a natural introvert by trade. Like I ain't gonna lie to her. Like I am petrified of public speaking. You know what I mean? Like I have a irrational fear of public speaking. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no idea where that came from. Maybe just how my dad was so strict growing up, in a very military like fashion. He's very,
Mm-hmm.
very strict. He was very controlling on the friends I made. He was trying to protect me, but in a way that kind of was detrimental too, I think. But and I lost my train of thought there. Um, what I want to bring up though is so I'm an introvert by trade. So back in 2015, okay, I made Master Sergeant. I was 15 years in. I came in
Okay.
2000, by the way. So I came in. So at 2015, I made Master Sergeant. So I don't know if you know what when you start making E7, that's like the top dogs, man. That's like I don't know what E7 in the Marine Corps. What is that?
Gunnery sergeant.
Okay, highly respected, right? I mean, those guys are just. I mean, you made it basically. A senior NCO tier. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I did not want to make Master Sergeant, bro. I did not want to make it because the responsibility, the leadership, the amount of public speaking you would have to do. I was just a mechanic, man, and I was happy to be a mechanic for 20 years, you know. But here's the funny thing is, I was a good follower. I did everything what I was supposed to do, okay, and I did it very, very well. That's one thing my parents, instilled in me was a work ethic. You may not be the smartest person, right, in the room, right? But if you can work the hardest, I mean, you can cover for that, right? Um, so back in 2015, mass started because all the accolades I did in the 15 years when I was in, and naturally you're gonna make it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when I made it, I was like, holy crap, dude. Dang, now what? You know what I mean? And they're like, and I was like, I want to stay in the shop. They're like, no, 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 no. You're gonna work for the commander. And I was freaking petrified, dude. I was petrified.
Mm.
And so I was so we were talking about getting out of your comfort zone, right? So it forced me to get out of my comfort zone. I was like, I'm an introvert. So, but I had to learn traits of an extrovert, whether I liked it or not. So guess what I did? And I took those classes that Jeff was talking about. What is it? The Toastmasters. I forced myself to be in positions where I had to talk to people, and that got me better. That made me a better leader over time, right? And and obviously, so now in this bit, in real estate, you have to talk to people. You got to do that kind of stuff, and it actually helped me out in this career today.
So for someone that want to change but don't know how to change, what kind of advice would you give them?
There's someone that needs a change. Can you say it one more time? I just want to make sure I get that.
Someone that wants to change but have no clue how to change. What advice would you give them?
That wants to change, but no idea how to change. Well, number one is, I mean, I would say, be around people that you're trying to change. Like, can you give me an example? Like, can you give me an example of like what they're trying to?
Yes, I can rephrase the question. So
Yeah,
how can an introvert go to a go? How can an introvert go from introvert to extrovert? How can an
yeah,
extrovert go to an introvert?
yeah. So, you got to force yourself. Number one, I think. I mean, for me, it wasn't that I even wanted to change, but I had to change.
Mm,
You know, I had no choice. For me, I just had no choice, man. I had no choice when it comes to that. Um, because if I did terrible as a math sergeant, I would have got kicked out of the Air Force, or they would have demoted me or something. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Or I've been, whatever, got kicked out. So for me, it was, I had to change.
The reason why I asked that question is because sometimes we're looking for the complexity of an answer, but the answer is so simple that it's right there in front of us because
Yeah,
it forces us to identify what makes us change. Back in August of 2020, when I started my journey, my real estate journey, my self development journey, it was hard. And what made me realize is that I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, my first book that I read, and I'm like, you can create wealth from real estate, you can get rich from real estate. Let me
yeah,
go, let me go all in. But I've learned that the weight was on my shoulders, but for some reason I didn't understand what the weight was. At
yeah,
the time I was married, and when I was married, I wanted to provide for my wife for our living, and then just to have a sustainable living. But
yeah,
I realized, and it just really dawned on me that the military is to make you comfortable, give you a paycheck first and the 15th,
yep,
living paycheck to paycheck.
yep,
So I'm like, that's not life. That is not life. A song played by Anthony Hamilton called "Cool." We don't have to worry about no money. Those are the lyrics. The first three lyrics. We don't have to worry about no money. I was like, what?
hmm,
All the weight that was on my shoulders got lifted off. Because now I understand I need to start working on myself to figure something out. I don't know what I'm figuring out. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know where I'm gonna go. But I'm figuring something out because when I got the military, I need to do something that I love to do. A lot of times we are so afraid to try, so afraid to let go of all the trauma that we have amongst us to even grow, to even learn, to even try something new. Ever since of August 2020, I've been trying something new. Real estate, communication. learning what a business is, learning how to look at numbers, looking at data, learning how to present yourself, learning how to be a proper communicator for
Yeah.
different audiences. So I'm mind it's mind boggling how much information is out here, but it's only out here if we're only seeking it. So there's no complexity answer of what makes you change that. The answer is it's so simple. They have to force you, they have to dawn on you to realize this is why I want to change, and here's what I'm going to do.
That's man, that's amazing. For me, maybe I needed a goal.
Mm,
Maybe I needed a goal. Here's my thing too is what really scares me
what's that?
is failing somebody. I think that's what really one of my greatest fears is failing someone.
Mm,
Um, letting somebody down, and maybe that's the military side, maybe.
mm-hmm,
So like one of my commanders, he took a lot of he did had a lot of trust in me, right? He basically empowered me. Okay, and by the way, that's amazing. Amazing leader is empowering people. By the way,
yeah.
okay. Uh, and I use that to this day too. But he empowered me to do a lot of these really complicated tasks and objectives and things like that when I was, you know, I'm talking about my tail end of career when I was working for my commander. But I was so scared of letting him down,
Mm,
and I worked sometimes even twice as hard to make sure that didn't happen, right? Or even before that, maybe when I was in my shop when I was in charge of like 60, 70 airmen, I was scared of doing something that would affect them negatively. Maybe make it, my decision make them do extra work, right? Um, and things like that. So, and even to this day, like private private money lenders, right? Um, they put a lot of faith in me and their money. A lot of
mm-hmm,
these people put their all their savings. I mean, they've got 50, 60,000. I have people that lend me $100,000 today. I mean, their whole entire life savings, and they trust me with that money. It's very humbling that somebody would do that. What I mean, it's
mm-hmm.
really humbling that a commander would risk his whole career, because if I failed that my commander, that would affect his performance report, right? And he would not get promoted, and he would be out. So maybe that's just my personality.
Mm-hmm.
But
I've learned because I was the same way when I was working with my mentors, Mike and Rigby on Steve Anderson. You know how you cold calling, you know how you calling sellers live, and
yeah,
somebody watching you calling somebody live for the first couple of times.
yeah,
It was mind boggling. It was nerve wracking. It was overwhelming.
yes,
Like I've learned so much him doing that is because you have to learn how to work under the pressure. If you're not able to identify the pressure that you're under,
yeah,
nothing's going to go right. Nothing's going to go the way that you think it's going to go. Him doing that, him sitting on live with me while I'm calling and have a conversation, him typing the notes, what I should say, when I should
yeah,
say it really taught me how to communicate.
yeah.
It really showed me the importance of listening to what's not being said.
Hmm.
A lot of times, as a communicator, we hear what's been told to us rather than the emotion behind it. How do you identify what's the problem if you don't hear the emotion?
Yeah,
People will tell you everything that you want to know if you're willing to listen.
man. That's a really important piece that you said there, and I think that's a lot of value is the listening, right? There are a lot of people that you think that they're listening, but are they really listening? Even for me, am I really listening, like truly what their issue is, right?
Mm,
So one big thing in the military, and you know, suicide, right, is a big thing currently in the military, right? A lot of people, especially post Afghanistan, post Iraq war, a lot of suicide are happening. I mean, I have friends that committed suicide in the past 10 years or so.
I'm
You know,
sorry to hear that.
oh yeah, it's really 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 sad, man. I've had clients in the real estate game that committed suicide, right?
Mm.
Um, Military clients, and I was, I bring that up because the listening side, right? You really need to listen. If somebody comes to you with a problem, right? Really need to put that phone away, okay, and truly listen to what the problem is, because they may have a bigger issue in their life, right? I remember we're kind of talking all over the place here, but I think
You
this is really
good?
important to me because I've, lost a lot of friends that way,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of people friends that I've saved too by being able to listen, right? I remember one time my first experience with a potential suicide was one of my I was a staff sergeant. This is when I was in Japan. I had an airman come to me late at night. He's a day shifter. I was working night shift.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 11 o'clock at night. It was like 10, 11 o'clock at night. Yeah. And so our shift started at 3 in the afternoon till like midnight, basically. But he came at 11. And he's a day shifter. So I'm like, what are you doing here? And I was busy doing my reports for the next shift, all that. And he's like, I'm just on my computer. And I looked at him and I was like, I was typing away and looking at him and I was like, something's not right, you know. And I just started talking to him. I was like, hey man, how's your day going? Right? There, how's work? How's his shift? What'd you do today? And the way he was talking, I mean, he was answering, but the way he was answering, I was like, something wasn't right. You know, I think what really helped out was I had a great relationship with my airman. He wasn't even on my shift, but I had a great relationship with other people because I love, even though I'm an introvert, I still like talking to. I just don't like big crowds, but individually, I was okay with that, and I really like interacting with the guys. You know what I mean? It was just, but because I had that relationship with these individual people, I knew something wasn't right with him. But maybe somebody else who didn't have that relationship with that person would not have caught on.
Mm.
So I said, hey, I was like, hey, once we go in the office real quick, I just I want to talk privately with you. We went in the office, and long story short, he had a relationship with a female, and um, she said that she was pregnant and wanted to get rid of the baby,
Mm.
and he wanted to keep it, and so he was like demoralized. He was, you never know with somebody, right? But he was really a lot of stress in his life, and then
Mm-hmm.
I found out he had other problems at work I didn't even know about because I sat on my other shift, and all those problems came down to that one point. And he came to work because he wanted to talk to me, but he was scared. He was scared to talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so like in the office, he was like, "Hey, Arnie, sometimes I just feel like I just want to disappear."
Mm.
Boom, boom, boom. I was like, "Oh my gosh, dude, here we go." All the training kicked in, right? And I was like, "Oh my gosh, all right." So, internally, I was freaked out. I was like, "Oh my gosh, what do I do?" He's thinking about suicide potentially. So, like I said, we were able to, get him some help, and to this day, he was able to take care of that. He got mental health, and had a lot of services provided to him to help him with that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like a tech sergeant today. And I follow him all the time. He's very very successful. You know, but being able to listen to people, I bring that up because you have to listen to people. Put away your phone. If somebody's talking to you, your spouse is talking to you, your friends talking to you, anybody, focus on what they're saying.
Mm.
Truly, genuinely listen to what they're saying. Okay, build that relationship. That's part of the communication side. You know, that was extreme case where, I was able to kind of figure out there's something wrong. But, you can help people that way. Just by listening to people. People want sometimes people just want to let out what they're trying to let out whatever. They need somebody to listen to them, and it makes them feel better. That's how you build relationships. When we're talking to a seller, I think this is why I'm really good at negotiating with sellers, bro. I was always told that introverts are really, really good at negotiating deals. Why is that? Because we listen very, very well. We're analyzing very, very well. I'm listening to everything that guy is saying because I'm trying to figure out how can I use that information to structure a deal, right? To buy that house. Okay. So I'm constantly listening, analyzing, listening, and I let them talk. I just let them talk. They may talk for an hour. I've had one caller for like 2 hours told me the whole life story about their family, their dog, what they ate. I don't know that's what they ate, but it was everything. I think I had maybe 5-10 minutes of me actually talking. He was just a talker. He was a type A guy. Type A personality. He just loved to talk. And obviously you want as a negotiator, you just let them talk, right? But so for me being an introvert, a good listener, it really helps out in my career. But I think in general though, I think people need to really put away their phones, man. Even here's one thing. My wife always tells me, like, when we're eating dinner, what do we naturally do at the table? Just like I get a text, I'm like, do this. That'll get something on my feed. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. You get lost in the those feeds, right? My wife has to tell me like all the time, like, hey, can you put away your phone? I'm like, I didn't even notice. I don't even notice anymore. I don't know if about you, but I don't even notice it that I'm on my phone all the time. And sometimes, like, I'll sit, like, I'll at a restaurant, right? I know you probably have done this too. Just sit back in the restaurant. Like, go maybe get the back table facing the whole restaurant, and just kind of like, analyze people.
I've done it
on their phones.
I've done it, Arnie. When I tell you I've done it, that is mind-boggling that you even just brought that up. But before I say this point, I want to say another point. You said something about listening. I was in college last year, where it's 2022. This year of summer, so I was in college. The first class that we had, he the professor, he's describing everything. He's telling how the course is going to go, what we're going to do, what we're going to be speaking about, how the course is going to go. So he said the best students are the best people that listen, because they're able to hear what was said, take the notes, and then and apply it to what they're doing. When he said that, I'm like, I really thought about it. The best students are the best listeners. I'm sorry, best listeners. Yep. Oh, dawned on me, Arnie. When I tell you, it is really true. It's really to identify that, not just with school, just with life in general, because people want to be heard. But a lot of times, people don't have the time to hear that person because we're so busy. We don't have the time. Something else is on our plate. You're not important, or this would make it seem like. Every time I speak with somebody, I'm listening because I want to learn. I'm an intrigued person. I want to learn about the story. I want to learn everything that you've been through. I was at the Sub-2 media a couple of months ago, and I met this gentleman named Christian. And we was talking. We were just talking. He told me, he was like, Tori, you know why I sat here and just told you my whole life story? I said, no, I don't. He said, because you listen.
Man, there it is. You hit it right on the head.
I said, wow. Just letting people be heard is powerful.
It's really, honestly. So I'm bringing up some deep stuff here, personally, and I'm okay with that. I like sharing my experiences, okay, because if it provides a value to your audience, Okay, that's a win for me. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so and not honestly, not a lot of people like talking about it because they're the pride, the ego, right? They want to be vulnerable. Okay, I'm 41 years old. I don't care about that crap no more.
Yeah.
Maybe when I was 20s, I would hide all that stuff, and that's probably the problem back in the day with the Air Force, the military in general. It was frowned upon to tell about your feelings, even though it's really cheesy. But it's okay. It's okay to talk about your feelings sometimes. All right. But I bring this up so you know, me and my wife have been married. My wife's name is Virginia, by the way. Everybody calls her Nia. So me and Nia, we've been married
Yeah.
six.
Okay.
Oh, goddamn, I'm getting in trouble here, bro. 18 years. Yikes. Um, um, so that's a long time. I mean, really, if you think about it, that's a long time, and not in the current. I wonder what the stat rate is for marriages, but I'm pretty sure it's probably closer to 50 to 60% success rate for 2-3 years. I
Mm.
don't know what the stats are, but if I had to guess, it's probably around that, or 50% divorce rate, 50-60%
I,
divorce
I
rate.
think I think I read an article. I believe. Don't quote me on it. I believe it's 40%.
40%.
40%.
Okay, that's still really high.
Yes, it is.
That's very, very high.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, anyways, every relationship has problems. Okay, and I think a lot of the failures on these divorces, and this is my opinion. Okay, is nobody's willing to talk about it. Nobody's really listening to what the other spouse is, what the problem is, right? So I would say early in my marriage, I would say maybe 8 years, halfway in, I'm married 8 years. We were, there was some, to be honest with you, there was some infidelity there. Okay. Um, and we were at a point where I don't know if this is going to work.
Mm.
Once a trust is gone, dude, it's very, very tough to fix that, man. Once trust is gone. Okay. But luckily, the military has free military counselors, marriage counselors. Okay. They actually actively at the time promoted it, but now a lot of people have used it. Okay. But I'm that person who gives up, man. I own my mistake, you know, and I was like, I need to get it fixed. Like if it fails, it fails, and that's foul on me for letting me get it to that point. But I'm gonna try my best. I'm gonna do everything I can to fix it. If it doesn't work, then it is what it is, you know. So I went ahead and did something that most people wouldn't want to do. Or feel uncomfortable doing it is we went and saw a marriage counselor the military provided on base.
Mm.
And the best, in my opinion, the best counselors are people who just facilitate. They don't talk a lot, right? They just facilitate a conversation, just like you are. You're an amazing facilitator. You have pointed questions to move the podcast along, right? To engage the conversation. That's what a great counselor, in my opinion, does, and that's what she did. She brought up certain points and made us talk. Conversation. Imagine that.
Mm.
Talking. She listened, right? And then when we're both trying to argue, the counselor was like, no, 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 you don't say anything, Arnie. Let her talk. And then same thing goes both ways. She forced us to listen to each other, right?
Mm.
And it brought up a lot of things like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you wanted more time. I didn't know you wanted a little more freedom. She was a little, maybe there's some controlling there a little bit, and so kind of, so it forced us to listen to each other, and it actually worked. It saved our marriage, bro.
Mm. Mm.
I couldn't freaking believe it. It took a little bit. It took a while, and nothing. It'll never go away. It'll always be in the back of her mind. You know what I mean? That will never. And she will hold that. But we make it as a joke now.
Yeah.
We just kind of laugh about it now. But we will never get to that point again. But it's not worth it. Number one, she'll take half of what I got. She'll take half my retirement if I ever do it again. But on a serious note, though, like it literally saved marriage. So when we talk about listening, it's a very, very powerful thing. Conversation in general, back and forth conversation. It's very, very powerful. Put down our phones, have that communication, spend time with each other, with family, right? I could tell you're a family person.
Yeah.
You bleed. You're definitely an extrovert, but you have also the blue in you. You're caring.
I'm sorry, Arnie.
Oh,
Give me
you're
a
fine.
second. I'm on the podcast. The keys right there. Okay, my apologies.
No, no, no worries. So, you're a blue. Which means you're a caring person. You know
Man,
what I mean?
thank yes, thank you,
I mean,
thank
do you agree with that?
I do, I do. It's because what I've learned is that you have to see the person as the person is, right? You can't create their potential when they don't see their potential. And it's amazing. You and Neil, you and your wife went to counseling to fix what was wrong, but it took awareness to even do that. A
Yeah,
lot
it took awareness.
we're so prideful, so egotistical that we don't want to do things because our feelings are gonna be hurt. We don't want to do things
Yeah,
because we don't know how to. We don't want to do things because why should we? But when you're
yeah,
in a relationship, when you're focusing on the other person and focusing on your growth, why not do it? The
yeah,
outcome is more is better than anything. Simply because you understand what somebody else understand. When I as I'm going through my divorce, I've learned our communication was not there.
yeah,
I had to go through life in order to figure out my emotions, how to work with them rather than against them, to say that my emotions are valid. I'm feeling
yeah.
this way because of this, and because of this, this is why I'm feeling this way. But it took pain and growth and realization to say this is why, this is how I'm feeling. Arnie, I applaud you for even identifying and doing something like that.
And listen, man, it like I said, it helps even one person a little bit, right? If I say it's just one marriage, to me that's an absolute man, because my biggest thing is I'm a fighter, man. What I mean, I'm a hard worker. Okay, I'm gonna work my ass off. I want to try hard to make sure it works, to fix it. If it doesn't fix it. Okay, it is what it is. We did everything we can, right? If we get divorced, in my opinion, as long as you tried to mend and it doesn't work, okay, great. You know,
And I did, yes.
not everybody's compatible.
Yeah. I
It is what it is. You know what I
I
mean? But my
I
thing is, as long as you try, I mean, you did everything. My regret would be was if, say we did get divorced at the time, okay, and then I look back and I'm like, what could I have done?
mm-hmm.
Did I try 100% to try to make that work? I would feel so bad. You know what I mean? And I don't want people to do that. I don't want them to have that feeling. One more point on this topic. I know we keep talking a lot, but I think it's really important. So one of my good friends, he just moved over here.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a coworker, but he's in the military. We deployed together. That's how we met. We worked the same office. But he's from here in Little Rock. Um, he actually called me up one day. This is maybe a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, "Arnie, I need a favor from you." I'm like, "Yeah, man, absolutely. What do you need, bro? What do you need?" He's like, "It's okay if I move in with you for a month or so." I was like, "Yeah, of course, man. Is everything okay?" He's like, "I'm just having me and my wife are having these problems. I'm not even, and she won't even let me in the house. They have a daughter together and everything, and there was some infidelity there in his part, um, and so he was like, I'm just gonna give up. I'm not gonna, after talking to him, he just didn't really want to try to fix it. He just said, it's not gonna work. I mean, I did it. We're fighting all the time. I'm done with it. I'm just gonna move out of the house. We're gonna be done with it. And then I told him my story. I was like, bro, I love you, man. I mean, I really love this dude is amazing for me. When he worked with me, amazing dude. I was like, man, don't. I was like, I get what it is. I get what I was there. I was there, but at least try to talk it out. Maybe think about doing the counseling.
Mm-hmm.
Talk it out, bro. I would hate for you later on because especially you have a daughter. you know, she gets remarried, you know, and then you're like, oh my gosh, what could I have done? I mean, at least try, bro. Guess what? Took my advice. They talked it out, and now they moved in my neighborhood. They fixed it. You know what I mean? I was like, oh my gosh, thank God, dude. You know what I mean? It's like my experience. You know how bad what happened in with my relationship. I was able to help somebody else with that. Learn from my mistakes, and they actually took the advice, which is really humbling, by the way. And the relationship is fixed.
Wow. I've learned our pain becomes our purpose, which
Yeah,
leads us to help more people. Arnie,
totally.
man,
I'm telling you, man.
this has been great. We definitely have to do a part two. We definitely
Yeah,
have
for
to.
sure, man.
So before
Yeah.
we end, I do have one segment. It's called Best for Last. So this segment
What
you
is it
answer
called?
best for last. I asked four
Okay.
questions, the last part, and you
Okay.
answer with a quick explanation.
Okay.
So first question: how do you keep your composure?
Um, by taking the emotion out of it,
Mm,
you know, and just try to, there's techniques, right? There's breathing techniques I've learned, right? Um, and before you say anything, especially when if somebody does something to you that you just freaking pissed off, take a second, just take a breath, you know, internal breathing, do a deep breath in, maybe not really deep, but just take a pause, gather your thoughts, right, and then do what you got to do.
mm.
So that's how I normally do it. If I'm really stressed out, you know, if I'm in a situation where I have to talk to a lot of people, right, I just calm down, right, say everything's okay, say don't, and then just do it, man. Just be confident.
That's powerful. Next question: what do you regret?
What do I regret? Number one, not getting to real estate early. That's my one of the big one.
Mhm.
Obviously, infidelity, in my relationship. That's probably number one, obviously. But then, you know, getting real estate too late. But as long as we're in it, but that's probably my big regret. And then next one is not having a better relationship with my parents.
Mm, that's powerful. My mama right here. My Betty vet right here. Uh,
Yeah, your family is, we kind of take them for granted, right? And I'm not saying it because your mom's there. It's true. You take them for granted when you're growing up. You get a lot of fights and disagreements and things like that. You don't realize till you're older, that like, oh my gosh, they did this for a reason. I
mhm,
was too immature and stupid to understand that at the time. You know,
agree.
and I wish I would have. We're me and my dad are in a great place now, but it wasn't always like that. You know, but so that's kind of one right there.
That's powerful. Next question. Did I say what are you grateful for?
You said what now?
Did I say what are you grateful for?
I don't think you said that. So what
Okay.
I'm grateful for is, my health, number one. Um, my wife, number one. There's no way. I'm just too damn all over the place, man. You know, my wife kind of keeps me grounded for sure. Um, my family overall in general, my brothers, sisters, mom, dad, obviously. And the opportunity to have passive income to do what I want to do. What makes me happy, and the opportunity in real estate, is getting me there. So
Mm.
that's one of another grateful thing.
When I perfect this public speaking, I'm getting back into real estate. I'm definitely getting back into real estate for sure.
And I'm here for you, brother.
And then last and favorite question: what does failure is knowledge mean to you?
I'm sorry, I got bad. What say again?
Last but favorite question: what does failure is knowledge mean to you?
What does failure?
Failure is knowledge. What does it mean to you?
Failure is knowledge. Oh my gosh, man! I can go another hour for about that, brother. So, and I think we talked a little bit about it.
Mhm.
Don't be scared to make mistakes, right? Take action, take imperfect action, like you said earlier.
Mhm.
Okay. My best, um, for me, sometimes my dad used to tell me this: you're hard headed, you know,
Mm.
But some of the best lessons were from my failures, right? Um,
Mm.
and talking about just in general, well, talk about real estate. Um, all the mistakes I did on the rehab, right? All the small mistakes, I learned from them and made me better, project manager,
Mhm.
you know, and I can teach people that too. Like these are some of my mistakes. Don't do those, right? So but failure, you have to fail. I want you to fail. I tell my airmen back in the day, I was like, I want you to fail, bro. Okay. Not where it's safety aspect of it, but I want you to get out of your comfort zone. Don't be scared to make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time, but I want you to make mistakes because that's how you learn from it. Like when you're a kid, mom said, "Don't touch the stove," right? Guess what? You're just gonna touch the dang stove, and it burns you. You're not gonna do it again. So I mean, you can't. I'm telling you, you have. Don't be scared of failure. Do not be scared of failure, because if you don't, you're not going to be able. You're not going to be the best version of yourself,
Mm.
in my opinion.
Mm. Man, this has been powerful, man. How can people find you? How can they get in contact with you? How can they potentially do some deals with you if they
Right.
have some? How can they find you?
So I do have Instagram. I'm building my social media platform, um, but you can find me on Instagram, Arnie ARNIE underscore Newton NEWTON. You get me on Facebook, Arnie Newton. You see a picture of my dog with a sub two hat on there. And then my phone number is 501 301 4472. That's my business number for my real estate company. I have several companies, but my marketing company is Ohana Realty Solutions, LLC. Um, I'm a real estate investor in Arkansas. I do rehabs, and I also buy property for long term and short term rentals. I do love my new purpose in 2023 is to provide more value to people, to help people, because actually it will help my business myself by partnering, by teaching. Um, so if you have anybody in your audience that are thinking about real estate investing, I would love to teach you. Okay, there's no charge on that. Okay, because I want to partner with you guys. So if I provide you value on how to find properties, we can partner up together, make money together, right? And then you build your portfolio, for financial freedom. That's what everybody's trying to do. So, get with me. You have all my information, but I love to work with you guys.
There you have it, man. Hopefully, y'all got as much value as I got from it. Arnie, man, bro, it's a pleasure learning from you. It's a pleasure just being in your circle, being just being connected with you overall.
Thank you, brother. I'll tell you, man, when I found out you did a podcast, when I said to get out of my comfort zone, I was excited, but I was kind of worried,
Oh,
because putting my face out there,
mhm.
talking about topics that are, I'm really, really comfortable with real estate, but I've been following some of your podcasts, but I was like, man, I need to provide some value to people. This is a platform that I want to get more into, and I would love to do more videos with you, brother. I mean, if you allow me to, I would love. I have more knowledge to provide people if they want to, but I want to help people out. I'm at a point in my life where you know, it's not about me anymore. You
Mhm.
know, I have retirement. But I want to. How can I provide? How can I help somebody to be better?
Mm.
Okay, personally and financially. I have the knowledge through the military, through real estate, to provide that kind of value to people. You know, I promise. I'm talking to your audience now. get out of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And don't be scared to make mistakes, and learn from other people like Terrell and myself. So I'm absolutely willing to teach you everything I know. Just reach out to me.
And there you have it. There go the closing. I'm not gonna. I cannot top that. Everybody, thank y'all for tapping in. Make sure you tap in with Arnie. Go subscribe to him. Go follow him. Go call him. Bring him some deals so we can actually grow together. Man, thank y'all. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Terrell. That was
Hold on,
fun.
Ernie.